Come on up.
Not on Tuesdays, right? Not on Tuesdays. We got grit, but we don't bite.
So, hello y'all. Today we're going to go ahead and get started with today's meeting. Thank you all for coming. I know that this is the week right before finals week, so shout out to everyone that's online as well. So, before we do get started, as always, if you're new to ACM and would like to become a member, please scan this QR code. By scanning this QR code, you'll be eligible for free giveaways, free swag, and internship opportunities. Also, membership is absolutely free this year, and for those who are already members, feel free to scan this QR code. This QR code will allow you to sign in and keep track of your meetings that you have. Remember that this Sunday we'll be having a banquet. You need to have a total of 9 meetings to be eligible for the banquet. And yeah, but as y'all are scanning these QR codes, heads up, tomorrow we'll be having a meeting with Manitech Steganography. I'm not entirely sure what they do, but it'll be a guest speaker. Or actually, it's not tomorrow, my bad. It's today from 5 to 6. A few of our officers will walk over there after this, so if you want to come, we want to extend that invite to y'all. But tomorrow we do have the introduction to embedded systems with Intro to Tech. That's going to be from 2 to 3 p.m. and it's going to be in the SU in the ski room. And tomorrow also we will be having another social from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Roost, which is down this hall over here. So if y'all want to meet the new officers, we have some of our new directors over here for next semester. I highly encourage y'all to come to the table and have some fun. De-stress before the semester starts. But a special reminder, this Friday, we will be having our ACM and ACM-W officer elections. So these are the positions that went uncontested for during the last election, but we'll be having the ACM treasurer, ACM technical officer, and ACM-W secretary spots open. So if you would like to run, scan that QR code, but if you would like to also vote, just remember that elections are going to be this Friday in the NPB room from 12 to 12:30. But yeah, also we have some opportunities for y'all. There are some opportunities left for the semester, which include scholarships, internships, and RDUs. So if you haven't checked that out already, please scan that QR code, and we would like to see UTSA students win those opportunities that we have. But last but not least, we are going to go ahead and get started with today's meeting. So over here, we have Cheyenne Sanchez. Her role in MITRE is that she's a full-time cybersecurity engineer working in information warfare, digital engineering, and the Texas Innovation Hub. Mm-hmm. We also have Dr. Elaine Cummins. She is currently the Texas lead for innovation in small business at MITRE. And we also have Rosa Montañez, which is currently a data engineer at MITRE. So now I'm going to invite Cheyenne to give a small presentation.
Oh, sorry, this is right there.
All right, just click this one. This one doesn't work. It's just go. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so for those of you who do not know who MITRE is, a little bit who we are, how we operate, is that we are a nonprofit organization. We host federally funded research and development centers, and we do a darn good job of it because every single day I'm always amazed at what we do. We started off just a small company from our headquarters are in Boston, Massachusetts, and we now have another headquarters in McLean, Virginia. And we are just a community of engineers and scientists, social scientists, even like Elaine herself. Every single day we are looking for problems to solve. They are not easy problems either. They're not something that you can put a quick fix or a Band-Aid to. They are something that you want to make sure is long lasting and that's durable for the test of time. So from COVID to cancer, from the great power competition, we hit on all strides. You may hear about our MITRE attack framework, which help out figure out cyber adversaries and looking at tactics and techniques they use. But again, we are expansive. We are global. We have multiple locations across the US and a little bit throughout the world as well. And I encourage you to, one, come to MITRE and check out our facilities. When we have students from UTSA come over to San Antonio Hub, that is always a great community effort. Because right now we're working with Project Xander, or as some of you may know, the Protecting Your Local Community Initiative, where we help out local nonprofits build up their cyber infrastructure. doing security assessments, just doing risk analysis on their infrastructure. And this has been doing great things for our community. And seeing how UTSA builds up that relationship is that we want to push more throughout Texas and even other innovation hubs. That one. So when COVID happened, a lot of things seemed to fall apart and break. A lot of people seemed like there wasn't any preparedness. MITRE stepped up to that plate. We saw that there was a great need. So we put on a COVID coalition. We built out 2 apps for healthcare providers and other public healthcare workers to do contact tracing, to look into for vaccine rollouts, and how do we make these deliveries more efficient and effective. Now, I talked to a few of you earlier. Some of you guys were interested in bioinformatics, and cancer is one fight that we are also in. Looking at electric health records, so EHRs. Looking at those, figure out where the patterns are. Looking at big data will help us solve cancer. Anybody here familiar with great power competition? Ever heard of it? Show of hands real quick. No? It's a little nice term just for Russia versus the United States versus China. From anywhere from politics, economics, how you buy your food, the lumber for our housing, to the medicine from the pharmacy. The great power competition affects us all in many different ways. As you can tell right now what's going on with Ukraine and seeing how everything's being played out on the global scale, you see how it has a ripple effect. Of course, space, the final frontier, right? From looking at hypersonic jets is a term. I'm not a space person, but if I can remember, it's hypersonic. All right. Propulsion, right? And then there's also how do we figure out how do we help out with climate change? How do we look at space junk and how we get rid of it? Just recently, we were also working on an effort for clearing up space debris. So now I'm gonna skip this one. We talked about battling COVID. We talked about going through space and our cybersecurity, but now we're focusing on who do we leave this world to and how do we solve our problems more together. And today on this panel, we'll be talking more about next generation diversity, inclusivity. Figuring out when we put solutions together, who's in the room? That's what matters. What minds are on that problem? The more diversity we have, the more aspects, the more perspectives we get. That insight is always valuable. So we are always investing in newcomers, young generation such as yourselves, or even those who have spent a lifetime in one area and want to figure out a new direction. For students who are more in mid-career, or for those in advance and want to figure out how to donate their knowledge to another problem set. Summer internships are a great way for y'all to get started involved. But here in the San Antonio location and many other locations throughout MITRE, we are always actively hiring. Just as past Rowdy Hacks, we were there looking for more interns. Some of y'all have met, and I'm really profound of what you guys had to say today. And I would like to have you guys reach out to me and figure out if there's a way to get connected and see if we can get you join MITRE team. When a successful internship has happened, or you're just graduated and you are on that early career professional track, there are several benefits ahead for you. We have the National Security Accelerator Program. We also have the Cyber New Professionals Program. Those are geared for putting you into multiple teams and doing transitions and rotations throughout a specific time to figure out what is it that you're passionate about, what is it that doesn't work, what is it that you're not interested in, and we can see you put your career forward. We make sure that you have that growth. So reflecting on who makes up our corporation today and wanting to build more onto that. So I think we have done a great job on including diversity. Today, these wonderful engineers and leaders are here to join us, and I'm super excited with what they have, and hopefully we can learn something together on what can we improve even more, because like every other place, MITRE is not perfect, but we know that, and we're constantly building on it. So when you join MITRE, there's these wonderful councils, some geared for LGBTQ, for accessibility, multi-generation. And this is where you see MITRE trying to make those improvements, hearing out those voices. So these are federally funded research and development centers. Every single one of them is specific to a problem and more. Now, we operate from overseas, throughout the government, throughout the intelligence community. We have done even more just for our local communities as well. Bobby has shown proof of that too by connecting so many of us together. MITRE is about risk-taking. I had to say that for certain. We reward risk takers tremendously. And even though you do fail, I think that's just something they even reward you too. Like, it's okay to fail. They recognize that. And there's always a chance for you to learn from that. So, quick slide on where we go. We go and we grow from looking for the next technologies. Where is the newest thing at? Where is our help needed? When there's a call for help, we will answer it. Okay, yes, we've been working for more than 60 years in public interest. Again, we're a nonprofit. We want to put the people first. We want to make sure that we have our sponsors taken care of. It is what's a good word for this? Well, it is a beautiful relationship that we see from academia to the DoD, from everyone across the board. And that's just something that you really want to be part of. Yeah, but every single day when you work within the MITRE team, you see the problems that you solve. You see the effects that you make, and those long-lasting solutions really make a difference. So thank you, everybody. I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Oh, is this one? Okay. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about MITRE. Mm-hmm. So we'll go ahead and start with our first question. What made you choose to work with MITRE?
So I started off as an intern, and it was during a pandemic. I'm a pandemic hire. I joined in June 2020. So at that time, I was really just looking, who is hiring? Because not a lot of people are hiring. A lot of things got canceled. But the moment I knew I wanted to stay with MITRE was when I graduated and they gave me an offer. There's certain things that you look for in a company, like little red flags. Mm-hmm. Should I stay or should I go? And MITRE didn't really give me any to look into. They didn't give me that option where should I go somewhere else? They really did tick off all the boxes I was looking for. They gave me a sense of confidence in myself that I could grow, that I had opportunities here, that there's a sense of community and commitment within that leadership and those teams. So it was then I knew, like, MITRE's a place for me.
Thank you.
So I had never heard of MITRE, and I was in the federal government. I started to work for the FBI in Washington, D.C. And the first day I was there, there were like 4 or 5 people from MITRE, and we were all in the basement. That was 2005, and the FBI was trying to get up to speed with some of the requirements that came out of the 9/11 tragedy, and MITRE was there to help us do that from a policy perspective. MITRE does have a small policy component, but all of the policy we worked on was technology policy. And I will say that the technologists, the people who did IT in the Bureau, were the biggest fans of policy. They all wanted policy to tell them what to do. So I had a very strong relationship with them throughout. But as it came time to retire, I always thought, gee, I know I'm going to want to work when I retire, and wouldn't it be great to work for MITRE? But I knew I was coming home to Texas, and I didn't think there would be anything for me to do. But it turned out that there was, and it's kind of a long story, but I did manage to meet Bobby, and I was just so honored that there was a place that I could work for MITRE out here, down here in Texas. And I will tell you that the view from inside of MITRE is just the same as the view from outside. It is a wonderful company full of wonderful people to work for.
I think that, to me, I like challenges, and that's what I like to spend my entire days working on. And there was the interesting thing is that in MITRE you get really interesting problems. You get very maybe ill-defined problems, but they're actually like things that impact your community, your country right away. So it's that opportunity not only to work on things that are challenging, but also relying on this group of people that you can always communicate with. I was surprised. I think it was my first week of work, and I actually had a problem, and I reached out to one of the another MITRE employee who happened to be somewhere in Virginia or Boston area, and he actually reached back to me right away. So it's that sense that it doesn't matter how far you are all one team, and you're working on a problem, and everybody helps everybody. It's very much so a community effort, that it's not so much a competition, it's a competition to solve the problem, not against each other. So it's a really enjoyable place to work on.
Thank you. Our next question is, what is some advice you can give to someone applying for jobs or internships at tech companies, specifically MITRE?
All right. Big thing is, even though you may not have much work experience, it's those skills and it's how you show your passion. Build up a portfolio of the projects that you've done, from schoolwork, from anything that you've done with Rowdy Hacks, or from any other club organization. Just building out the portfolio means a lot. And that can really make up for anything that you lost if you didn't have an internship whatsoever. And also showing your passion. Everybody has one thing that they truly love, where they get that twinkle in their eye, that little glimmer, and they could go on and on about. So that when you show that to a person who's interviewing, let that shine through, that you have your heart set on solving this type of problem, and that's what you want to go for.
That's good advice.
So just to kind of go along with what Cheyenne said, I think for any job that you apply for, you need to tailor your resume. I've looked at a lot of job applications over the years, and a lot of times people are just sending a generic, you can tell this is the same thing they send to everybody. You look at that job and you look at what the requirements of that job are, and make sure, even for the federal government, if you were to want to go to work there, they do computer searches on keywords and they look for keywords. But even if you're not going to be vetted in an automatic way, you still want to make sure that you tell about your experiences, any work you've done, any classes you've taken. Tie what you know and have done to what the job requires.
I think, to me, it's if I were to hire somebody who is an intern or an employee, what I care is about their ability to really challenge themselves, and you have to demonstrate that. Getting good grades, it's important, but it's really your ability to face something that you have no knowledge of and figure out how do you actually tackle the problem, what in my eyes makes you a good candidate. So demonstrating that and also establishing those connections, because at the end of the day, for any job that you're in, you have to have it's the soft skills, the people layer. It's really what helps you more often than not also applies into solving a problem. So that's kind of like that would be my perfect combo. Somebody who can tackle problems and who can demonstrate that they have tackled problems, whether you volunteer with working on an open source project, or if you do rowdy hacks, any of those things that really demonstrate that you're willing to take a risk. I think that those are important things.
Yes, thank you. Have you ever second guessed the path you have taken in STEM? If so, how did you overcome this?
Oh, yes, many times throughout my undergrad. It was when I think I was a sophomore and I was taking probably some really heavy programming classes. And yeah, things do get tough, but again, when you know yourself, you really have to just know yourself as a person, that you want to do something. You just push through. And it's that one saying, like, you embrace the suck that comes with it. And things did get easier after that. It got easier once I got through a couple of hurdles, but I really had to tell myself, you gotta have grit and keep on pushing through.
So my path is I know the longest path represented in the room, because I'm the oldest person in the room almost everywhere I go these days. But I can't say that I do regret. My undergrad was in elementary education, and I ended up only teaching school for a couple years full-time. I taught part-time for a few more years because we were starting a business, and that was kind of our bridge to have a steady income, but I was helping to build the business. But I still use things that I learned in learning to be a good teacher, and learn thinking about objectives and helping to shape your decisions you make and what you're going to do every day. So I can't say that I have regretted it, but I think the point is you progress along your path. And I know people say to me, oh, I bet it was always your dream to work for the FBI. I didn't know enough to have a dream to work for the FBI. My life has been like just going uphill, and you can just see a little bit of the way. And then when you get there, you can see a little something else. And but there are challenges. There always are. And I think what Cheyenne described is a very good way to meet those challenges.
I think I have the longest trajectory on STEM ever.
In STEM, maybe so. That's true. I don't have any STEM.
No, I have taken classes on every single discipline because I really did not know what I wanted to do. And this might reveal my age, but back then, they didn't have computer science programs, or computer science programs were very new. So it was even very difficult to even imagine those sort of things. The closest thing that I actually have my initial degree, it's in applied sciences, and I took every single discipline of applied science, biology. I work with oncology research. I have done absolutely everything you can imagine. So I think that what came with it is that I was very clear that I didn't know what to do, but I liked working in research, and that's kind of like what drove me. But I was not afraid of trying and saying, yeah, I like it, but this is not for me. And sometimes when it's not clear, that's the best you can do, and not quit on yourself, because it's so easy to get overwhelmed, and everybody's asking you what you're going to do when you grow up and what job you're going to have, and you don't have a single answer to provide. But as long as you expose yourself to multiple things, then you really get to at least say, well, this thing, I like it. I ended up settling for computer science, going for computer science, because yeah, that sounds horrible.
You settled on that.
Yeah,
there you go.
Kind of. Because I like the idea of you can work from home on anything. It's like all scientists, that you don't need all this other super magical things. You can just, with your brain, a whiteboard, and give me some code, and I'm rolling. So I think that it's it was a long way though. But I think that that's the biggest thing, like not quitting on yourself, not let pressure break you.
Yeah. Mhm. Oh my gosh. Okay.
That's a lot of pressure there.
Lots of pressure. What do you wish more people knew about women's experience in tech/STEM?
This does not reflect my experience at MITRE, just in general from undergraduate, and also when I was a work study at a different community college when I was getting my associates. One thing I did see was daily microaggressions or microexpressions or just exchanges, just like comments of just demeaning women. There has to be more acknowledgement where sometimes people say things that they don't know what they're saying is demeaning or degrading. And I think more education needs to be put out there where there are such things as women engineers. Women can be doctors. And you shouldn't undermine that idea. So just understanding that women can be anything as much as a man, that needs to be promoted more.
As we're on this subject, let me say I'm so impressed that there are as many young men here as there are young women, as many men students as there are women students.
Mhm.
And I think that says, I counted, yeah. we outnumber Bobby, but you know, he's got a spirit big enough that he can hold his own with us for sure. But I'm so impressed by that, and I think it shows the real progress that's being made. And there are always going to be inequities. You know, there are a lot of white men who feel like that they're not being treated equally now, or they're giving up things. So there are always going to be inequities. But I think that we all just have to understand that and keep moving and not let it stop you. Don't let it stop you. If somebody says something or thinks something because for whatever reason, don't let it stop you. Be aware of it, and maybe you can help the other person be aware of it. Because I think you're right. People don't even realize what they're saying. Yeah. So, but I think we're making progress as a community, as a society.
I agree. We're making progress. I think that it looks different now. Like when I first started, what it looked like was I really have nobody to study with because I wouldn't get invited to any group. So try to study calculus on your own. It's better when you have a group of people that you can work through problems. But what I see now is the fact that because it's spoken up more, people are aware of it, but they still fall victim for it. I think that I have seen this more like in the engineering community. You would have people who, when you submit your code for evaluating, then the rigor or the bar is set higher for you. And sometimes you get into this incredibly petty conversations with people. But the reality is that that same rigor is not applied to everybody else. So it's not about lowering the bar. Maybe it's raising the bar for everyone. So if we're going to apply that level of rigor, because I believe in good code and good code can save the world, let's do it equal for everybody. Let's demand that. And I think that what you have to learn is to navigate that because people are very unaware of it. When they give you feedback and you tell them, like, have you noticed that I don't do anything different than the male engineers? Everybody gets very defensive. And then the conversation kind of like stalls. So it's about kind of like redirecting the question and saying like, you know, you might be right. I should have just named this function this way. I didn't see it in our standards. Maybe we should include it in our standards. Or maybe, yes, I was interrupting. But maybe we can have a way to fix it for everyone. Because unless you learn how to navigate those things, then it always becomes one versus the other. And this is about good engineering. It's not about a good female engineer or a good male engineer. It's just good engineering, period.
Mm-hmm. Have there been situations you have encountered in MITRE where a project, an objective, or a personal mission has failed? If so, what lessons did you learn from that?
Oh, when does not anything go wrong?
Thank you.
Does anybody know really what they're doing? It is absolutely okay. Failure always happens, and just gotta let it roll off, and it's okay. It's absolutely okay to fail because you do learn something. You learn what not to do, first of all, and then you can also refer to like, hey, I need to have an expert in this. What's going on here? I don't know how to solve it, but that's okay. I heard that you can. How can we do this together?
And I really don't have anything to add to what Cheyenne said. I think she summed it up very well. It's okay, you know, and at MITRE, it is okay. It may not be in some places, but it is at MITRE. I'll say that.
I think that the one project that I can tell you that I felt that it could be doing better. I don't know if I would call it a failure, but it's the problem of having too many smart people in a room, and you're in a room. There's 3 people and there's 5 ideas on the table, and at the end of the day, working in engineering it's a group effort. You have to learn how to communicate and how to come to a common ground, and maybe you give a little bit and you get a little bit more over here because it's engineering. There's like 5 different solutions. At the end of the day, what matters is what resources you have, how can you get there, and that is what I have seen more often that happens, that you have way too many smart people in the room and everybody wants to pursue their idea, but it's not your idea. This is a collective idea, and how do we all come together, and having a little bit of humbleness and saying, maybe I'm not the right person for this. I have an idea, but who knows, because it's not my expertise. Or acknowledging that somebody else is the person who can actually has the things that we can go behind that idea and really like push it through.
Did you want to add something?
I just want to say thank you so much for both of you joining today, because I'm more in the early career and I'm just learning so much also from y'all. So this is so much not a learning experience for y'all, but also for me as well. So thank you for coming out here. So please continue. I'm sorry.
Yes, no, you're good. What are some of the projects or research programs that are going on at MITRE, and could you talk a bit about the projects?
What is not going on? I think I hit on this earlier about Project Xander, and this is probably one of my favorite stuff that we are doing, is connecting UTSA students, computer science students specifically, who are taking the courses Principles of Cybersecurity and Cyber Operations, and breaking them down in teams, pairing them up with nonprofit organizations across San Antonio, and doing cybersecurity and cyber infrastructure assessments. This has been one of my favorite ones. Every semester when it comes available, I tell Bobby I want to be a mentor. So that's one of them. There's other projects I've been on due to security reasons I can't share. But Elaine?
So everything I do is unclassified. So I can talk. I will tell you that I'm not exactly doing research as the lead for innovation and small business, but learning how we can help small businesses get to a place so that they can help our government sponsors. And so there's a huge learning curve. We're learning every day. There's full of speed bumps and so forth, but just to keep finding a way around and through and getting people in a place where they can help our sponsors.
At least one effort that I'm particularly familiar is more with the efforts on misinformation detection, and how states actually use that, because it's kind of like, especially this, we're so connected that in reality those boundaries that we had in the past when it comes to countries is really gone. So how does that interaction really happen? How does that influence us being a democracy? How does that actually can influence then other areas like politics, economics, and so forth? So that's kind of like high level what it does.
Thank you. What is defined as success at MITRE?
I think I want to go back to talking about risk. When you decide to take on a new project and put yourself out there, just be a little bit vulnerable, saying, there's this new challenge. I want to take on that challenge. There is that moment where people see, okay, geez, they're going to really try for it. They're really going to do that. If it does become a success, if there's a positive outcome, you're able to give it over to a sponsor, or it can become a deliverable that is something that is rewarding. But if it doesn't, if it fail, people still say, you know what, you tried. And you know what, I'm going to remember that you took a chance on yourself. And if you involved a team, they also took a chance on you and your leadership. And you at least tried. Mm-hmm. So people will remember that. And they'll come back to you and saying, you know, even though it didn't come out successful, you did get experience from that. You still got more knowledge from that. And that goes a long way too.
And again, I'm not going to add to what Cheyenne said. She's absolutely right.
Yeah, me.
There you go. See, Cheyenne.
Next three of us.
That's why they put you there first, Cheyenne.
It's all about risk taking, and I think everybody understands that sometimes it doesn't work, and it's fine because at least you try it. You're not gonna lead to innovation. There's gonna be no innovation if you don't take any risks. That's the reality. You take calculated risks.
Small businesses, there's only about a 5% success rate for the small businesses themselves in my case. So, yeah, but.
What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh. Okay. Be louder. Don't be afraid to be loud. Second, don't take yourself too seriously. Just know when to laugh more and have fun. Mm-hmm. And last, be the adult you wish you had when you were younger. So
it's been so long since I was young. Let me think. I think be kinder to yourself. Don't be too hard. I think a lot of us who are overachievers, and MITRE's full of overachievers, I think, and we tend to be pretty hard on ourselves. So be a little kinder to yourself, and learn from whatever mistake you made. Again, going along with what Cheyenne said after the last question.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's so you start realizing certain things. Like I'm a perfectionist. I'm not an overachiever. I'm demanding with myself. And that over there brings the problem of that you're always seeing what you're not doing right. And it's not that you're going to give yourself like an easy pass, but nobody's perfect. Nobody knows everything. And we're here in the same wave of learning. So sometimes just need to chill a little bit and just take it easy. Not be so hard on yourself. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What was something new you learned at MITRE that you did not know before?
So many things. The ability to connect with so many people all at once. And what I mean by this is whenever you meet someone from MITRE, that sense of community that you have, they're able to be not just a book of a person, they're just a whole entire library, just a wealth of knowledge. And then you learn from other people from them. You're saying, if you ever want to do pen testing, here's this person that you got to go to. And they will actually connect you. They don't mind saying, if you need help, there's this, that they will take the time to do it. There's just this courtesy of community that's built within MITRE, where they will just knowledge share with you. And learning how that factor, that whole entire arena is just cherished. That is something that I love to see every single day.
So that is an interesting question, but I do think, I would say one of the things I learned was to appreciate and to know what it was like to be a part of a functional organization. I think MITRE is a very functional organization. I think the FBI was not. It was very dysfunctional, like most big organizations are.
Yeah.
And to have that balance of people working with people, because with MITRE, you're not their boss, you're their sponsor. And to me, it was like teamwork. And it was just so rewarding to be in an environment like that, even in the midst of the dysfunction and chaos that was going on around us. And the things we were working on, a lot of people in the FBI didn't want them to happen. And it was true cultural change. So that was very helpful to me to know that I had this support of this functional organization, even while trying to work within the dysfunctional.
So what had been a surprise to me in MITRE is the community of women, because I thought that there was more percentage of women, because women really come together when it comes to, it's not so much working on a technical problem, but also you have to present it to your sponsor who is not a technical person or who might not be as aware as you are on the technology. And how do you kind of bring it in a perspective that they understand it, and they receive it well. So often you have these conversations that are not about necessarily the technical piece, but how do you deliver? What are the concerns of the sponsor? How do you address them? What are kind of the people layer that really makes things fail or succeed? So I think that had been to see, to rely, have a group of other people that I can have those sort of conversations with, and that, if I don't feel like I'm being misunderstood if I use certain words, because I'm very expressive, I guess. It's really nice because it kind of helps you think through problems and approach them in a different way.
Thank you. I know sometimes when we're working or doing assignments in school, we kind of forget to take time for ourselves. So what is something that you guys do to self-care, and how do you schedule that in?
All right. Well, this is a hard one for me somehow. So, yeah, it gets overwhelming doing part-time grad school, full-time work. I decided to get my calendar and actually schedule in. I will have alarms after alarms saying, this is where you stop work, this is where you start school, go for a walk, go and do a painting. I paint. I love doing acrylics. I have a wall full of acrylics. Some of them are bad, and then over time you can see this is actually pretty good. It's not trash. So doing that, and I picked up an old hobby of mine, just doing digital art too. So if I want to get away from the screen time, from the screen, just go back to the acrylics and everything like that. But yeah, you just gotta know how to pace yourself, and it's okay to set alarms for everything. It's always okay, because you got to make it mandatory to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how to do that either, Cheyenne. I struggle with that. We tried to walk, and a year or so ago, I had surgery, and we just never started walking again after that. Something we were doing very good, and then we just never got back to it. And literally yesterday, I had it on my calendar. I'm going to stop at 4:30 and we're going to go for a walk, and it poured rain. It's like, what are we going to do? I'm still working on that, though. We're still going to try it.
You get a treadmill and you walk inside.
Yeah, that's what we should have done. We didn't. We just went to eat. We walked from the car to the barbecue. Blanco barbecue is great. It's the best barbecue we found in San Antonio.
I have a garden. That's what I do. And everybody who knows me knows that I garden, but I have that's my other science project, because it's it's truly is a science project. I have a garden within gardens. I have edible gardens. I have a tropical garden. I have a native one. I'm actually creating another one for xeriscaping and wildlife. So that's what I do. I
Wow,
have a
that's
bad meeting and I just walk my garden, and it's not very big. You'll think it is huge, but it's not, and it's good.
That is wonderful.
Yeah. So if you need advice on sweet potatoes, I am your person. She's
I
your
grow
girl.
bamboo, so I'm like, if you know anything about that, come my way.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Our last question is, what piece of advice has stuck with you that you'd like to share with everyone else?
Treat yourself better today and tomorrow than you did yesterday. Because there's always going to be a time where you mess up, and you're always your worst critic. That internal monologue that you have just never really turns off. It will keep you up at night sometimes. So just be kind to yourself. Just know that you're doing okay, that you're trying your best. Sometimes it doesn't look like 100%, but you're going to be okay.
I think not that different from what Cheyenne said, but just keep moving, just keep moving forward. Find your way.
I actually had a conversation years ago with someone. It was like a really hard context because that's the first thing that came to mind. It was about his wife telling him that he couldn't make her happy. It's like, but I want to make you happy. And she would say, you can't make me happy because happiness comes from within. Happiness is not subject to accomplishing something or making so much money or having things or being in a particular place. It's a choice you make every day, you know, and even when the situation is not great, you can still choose to find something to be thankful for and be happy for, because, you know, it rained and my hair is frizzy, but at least the plants got water, you know.
That's good.
It really changes your day to day, because you're gonna have hard times. That's part of living. So yeah.
Thank you. I know something personal for me is focus on the process, not the outcome.
There
Just
you
like
go.
focusing on the journey instead of like, oh, if
Absolutely.
I fail, like then this will happen.
Focus on the journey.
We'd like to ask the audience if y'all have any questions that you'd like to ask our lovely panelists.
For Ms. Cummins, what was it like working at the FBI, and what are some different things that maybe you like better, or maybe you like from your previous job, from those two jobs that you think were good?
Well, I've loved, and it is a very dysfunctional organization, but I loved working there. I loved the challenge of it. And so what did you want to know exactly?
What was it like working there? And,
What was it like?
and what are some things that when you came to MITRE that you saw differently, and then you're like, wow, why didn't we have this?
Well, of course, I already knew MITRE pretty well, and I already said, you know, there have been no surprises. It looks the same from the inside as from the outside. At the Bureau, what I loved was seeing things change because of things we were doing as a team. And there really was change over time. And I tell the story. The first time I was going to tell the story, I asked my boss, who was an FBI agent. I had been asked to talk somewhere, and I said, "Hey, Owen, you know, I'm going to give a talk." I said, "This is what I'm thinking about saying. Do you think it's okay to say this?" And I'll tell you what I said, and he listened to it, and he said, "Yep, that's about right." So it had to do with information sharing. That was my job as the chief information sharing and safeguarding officer. And when I first got there, it was like people were standing around in the halls waiting for things to go back to normal. That there were already immediate things that the Bureau had to do differently, and they certainly weren't interested in any kind of long range change. And it was like they're just, you know, waiting for things to go back to normal. And of course, things were never, you know, we had a new normal, right? And so then I saw people began to understand that they had to do these things differently. They didn't really like it. They had to share some information that they hadn't been sharing in the past, but they understood that they had to do it. And then we got to a place where people got it. Hey, this is good for us too. If I'm sharing, they're going to share back. And the leadership began to see there are good things about this information sharing business. And then the fourth stage that we got to was there was real vision from the leadership. I remember one time one of the EADs called me in, and they're like, EADs are like way up in the hierarchy. They used to be third. I think they have another deputy or assistant deputy director now, but they're at the top of the org chart. And he called me in and he said, Elaine, I'm going to do, and he described what he was going to do. And I said, well, let me talk to, I'm not sure we can do that. So we were having to hold the leadership back. But the vision was good and the vision was there. And we found a way to implement some of what he wanted to do. But seeing that growth and that change, that was, and being a part of that, and I don't take credit for it, but I was a part of it, and it meant it was really rewarding and always challenging. But I like a challenge, so it was good.
I have a question. So, how did you go about like finding like your niche thing that you wanted to do? Because of course, like computer science is just like a whole like a wide range, but for me personally, like, I'm interested in cybersecurity, but even that is still like a gigantic like umbrella. So I was just wondering like how you went about like finding like that like one specific thing that you wanted to do, or at least focus on, until you got to the next thing.
So I recently found one thing that I really want to be a specialist in, because so far I've been a generalist, especially being early career, but I found the one thing. And first of all, it's trying everything that so you know what you don't like. I was going back to that one point of like, you got to try it out, say like, yeah, that's not for me. At least you know now. And you just got to keep on trying. So like, this is really good. I was on a project for information warfare. Rosa was on it too. We did really great support for the Air Force. And I built an awesome tool with a team for topic modeling neural toolkit. And I really did like that information space of big data, of analyzing sentimental analysis, seeing what does propaganda look like, what does false information look like, and that I had fun every single minute of it. I was not bored at all. I think in cybersecurity, computer science, I don't think you're bored any single day, but there's just an extra excitement that was there, and I knew like this was it for me. Like I want to continue in this. So yeah, it's just knowing, like you'll find it. You just gotta keep on trying which alley it is.
It's just like trust the process, really.
Yes, that process.
Yeah. I think. Oh,
No, well, I think that's something that you ladies need to answer.
Because I'm big on chasing problems. I first started working on doing computer science. Then I kind of like decided to focus on cybersecurity. And then as I was working on cybersecurity, I started working on also on the side of cyber operations. And then I was like looking at this one particular problem that had to do with threat intelligence. So I ended up also studying forensics. And then from there, I was trying to do more of the predicting piece. So I ended up doing also some of the data analysis. So to me, you have to find something that challenges you, because there's going to be tons of things that you're good at, but that you would not spend more than 5 minutes thinking about it because it's just not interesting enough. But you have to find something that really like grips you, a problem that is like so interesting that you just want to continue on. I think that's kind of like a little bit of trial and error, but when you find something that is like hard, then that's usually a good sign. Yes, don't be afraid. Go for it.
I have a question, Ms. Montanez.
Rosa. Everybody calls me Rosa.
You talked about that when people send in their applications or going for interviews at MITRE, that you really look for those soft skills as well as just being knowledgeable. So how does one go about building up those soft skills?
I think, ironically, that a very interesting place to develop your soft skills is to go into volunteer in organizations. Because when you volunteer, everybody has like a common interest, but everybody's going to have a different vision, which is different than when you go into a company, because usually companies select people who kind of like align with what they want and so forth. So I think that to me, where I learned the most to work with people who were completely different from maybe being technical or so forth is really surprisingly was through the volunteering process. So it's not something that you would not think to be of too much intensity, but it actually it can get intense when you have so many different opinions and everybody feels like they're doing good and everybody has the kindness of their heart trying to do the best in a problem. So yeah, I think that that's one. I think another thing is also self-awareness, because I think that the more you're aware about yourself, not in a critical way, but to say, well, that was something that might upset you about somebody, but having that ability to reflect and say that, well, the reality is that I did not behave my very best either because I did this other part. It helps you to, over time, you start asking questions that you learn to see when you're being emotional and say, wait, that's not, let me focus on the problem, because if you go to that level, it's just going to be a never-ending argument that nobody really wins. So I think that those are two things, like that exposure to people who are completely different than you, and that learning over time to develop that self-awareness.
Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask?
I have another question for Rosa. You're a data engineer, correct?
Yes.
So I'm taking a class right now called time series analysis, where we have to like come up with models for big data and come up with forecasts and stuff.
Yes.
Is that something that y'all use? That do you work on models for big data, and what are some maybe programming languages or statistical methods that you like to see in applicants that are applying to that?
So I think that this is my experience as an engineer. You're always going to be learning a new language. Yeah, it's more about how you, even when I interview, I usually interview more about, depending on the position, also about how much you can actually learn. I think Python is basically the standard. You shouldn't be diving into anything that has to do with C, with big data, unless you're kind of like a very selective few that really likes to build their own libraries, which you should go for it. But I think that especially what you will see on big data problems, and this is where it gets really messy, is where you're trying to integrate this into an existing technology, or how do you make it valuable? How do you make it economical? All those other elements that like the part of the engineering of big data engineering, it's about all the things that nobody really want to talk about. That is the things that make the data scientists more effective. So I think that you have to have that connection with, and I've seen this a lot, in which, yeah, you can solve a lot of problems with neural networks, but not every problem requires neural networks. Neural networks are expensive, so you have to prove your case that this is the best approach because of this particular conditions. So that insight, that's really what I'm after. Somebody who can say, well, between these two methods, I'm going to choose this one because of this resources or this constraints or this time gap or so forth.
If I may add on to that, I completely agree. Sometimes we focus on, when we're applicants, we focus too much on the hard skills, what languages we need to know, what technologies, what infrastructures. And sometimes we just forget the soft skills. And some of y'all should have probably taken some programming language class of your comp sci. You get asked the question, what is the best programming language? Depends on what the problem is you're trying to solve.
Amen.
Okay? So you have to be, I think it's just more, you have to be adaptive. You're going to learn over 40 programming languages in your lifetime, on average.
You will.
So the more adaptive you are, the more willing, don't lose that learning edge. keep on learning, keep on trying to get more of that knowledge. Okay.
I agree. I started with C, and then I went into a class that the professor said, "All I'm testing, all your programs are in Java." No Java experience, but there it is. And then I started working, and it's like, "Oh, and you're going to become our Python developer." And there I was. I became their Python developer, and then I started dabbling in C again. So it's, but again, it's your ability to know where to make that distinction and saying what works best versus the other. That comparison, that's what really gives you the extra push as an engineer.
Well, thank you. Well, that's all of our questions for today. We thank you for coming to join us today. Thank you for your experiences, your advice, and your words, and your time. But yes, that's it for today's meeting. Thank you. Thank you, MITRE.
Thank you.
Of course.
Sure.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Now,
Oh no, you too.
Oh,
Come on.
Stan?
Stan?
Oh, Stan? Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Oh, you want us?
but we all